So, on this special Sunday Super Bowl edition, we are so excited to be joined by candidate Randall Taylor, who's running for, the illustrious 24th. So, welcome to the Sunday Night SitDown, Randall Taylor. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Miracle. Thank you for having me. I very much appreciate it.
We're so excited to sit down and talk with you this evening. And so you're in the race. How has it been for you these past couple weeks?
It's been difficult. We were very surprised by the last special election, and they have called it a nominating convention. I thought we were doing very well in that race. Talking with people, talking with the committee people. It's not the most democratic of processes, but it's what it is. And I thought we were doing very well. But unfortunately, Miracle, one thing I'm gonna have to talk about in this campaign is I've talked about before is that we don't control our communities. There are other people that really do control our communities. For example, in Homewood, the Coliseum, there's a lot of people who have no idea. Some people think UPMC owns it. Some people think the URA, but if we really controlled our communities, we would know what was happening in our community at any given moment. And so I'm piecing together everything, but I do believe that one of our local unions, SEIU 32BJ, headed by Sam Williamson, may have inserted themselves into this race. And Miracle, again, the 24th and the 19th legislative district, first time in history that we've had a chance, we've had two open seats. We have a chance to bring forth new leadership. And because in the Black community, we don't have a lot of organizations or things like that. So we don't have a lot of leaders that we can easily point to. But I mean, right now, we don't even have an NACP really functioning in the city of Pittsburgh. And we look at our elected officials, particularly city council, state rep, really as our leaders. I mean, they are household names, even for people who don't really follow politics. And, our hope is I believe that we have a right to self-determination. And I also believe that we as Black people need to begin to practice politics differently. And so I would say a month ago, if that same union, I talked to that person, Sam Williamson, he said it would be, open process. Candidates would get a chance to come and talk to their membership. None of that occurred. So this may have been the unilateral action of one white man who decided to use the dues of his working people to insert himself a race. And the question is why? Because we're all Democrats. I was very active I used to be a hospital worker, very active in hospital workers rising, trying to unionize UPMC. We're all Democrats. And we all will go to Harrisburg and vote for a very pro-labor agenda. So what is it? So exactly what is going on? Why are they using dollars not to defeat Republicans, but to defeat other, quote, Democrats, unquote? And so I think it is because quite possibly, and again, if I'm wrong about what I'm saying, I will apologize vociferously, publicly, anywhere. But if it's true what I'm saying, then we happen to see a particular white man who may be in the business of trying to create his own Black leadership. That should be disturbing to all of us.
You talked a little bit about the lack of leadership. Is there a leader that you draw inspiration from as you're campaigning, as you're going out meeting people, or a leader that has spoken to you that has guided your political philosophy?
Oh, locally, there are a lot of people who I admire. Lewis Hawk Kendrick is one, Rick Adams is one, Carl Redwood, is another. My friend Karen Payne Powell, who held many offices, and Wilkinsburg, who helped shape and mold me in my earlier days. Alma B. Fox, who unfortunately passed away, but we had her for 99 years. These are people who I've always looked up to, admired. My hero, Reverend Leroy Patrick, who helped integrate the Highland Park pool, even though he didn't know how to swim in the 1950s. there are people like that. There are a lot of strong leaders that we've had here in Pittsburgh. Nationally, of course, politically, it's always people like Adam Clayton Powell, who always, again, somebody who came from the people. And when those outside forces came against him, he was always, if I do right by my people, they'll do right by me. And they lost every single time. And there's a program going, I think, today about Fannie Lou Hamer. She's always just one of my true heroes who, was just a sharecropper and just did everything, to change the conditions for Black people. And she was just so courageous. And so those are some of the heroes I draw inspiration from politically.
Well, it's always great to hear. And so you have these leaders that you're drawing inspiration from. So what was your inspiration to jump into this race, and how do you feel that your unique capabilities make you the candidate for this race?
Yeah, I tell everybody, elected office has never been my life's ambition. It just simply is not. My life's ambition has been the liberation of our people. That's been my life's ambition. And again, my experience at Penn Plaza, again, I'd always been in education. I still think that I'm passionate about that. But my experience at Penn Plaza, being displaced from there, went on this long journey about affordable housing, displacement of Black people from the city of Pittsburgh. And you see the forces at work. You see the for-profit housing that goes on, the private partnerships in housing that we see that make our people rent forever. And so housing become a passion. And again, the rebuilding of Homewood has always been my focus in everything that I've been doing, always. That deserves to be a good community where our people can live and raise their families and grow old. And we have a right to that. And so I ran for this because I have been talking about those issues. We've heard about the displacement. That was some of the work for Penn Plaza. We heard about the displacement of significant amounts of African Americans from this city over the last 10 years. And so my work, I believe, is around housing. And I believe that we can, within the next 10 years, bring 30,000 people back to Homewood. Absolutely. The money's there. The money can be borrowed. But we also need to make a way to take people away from renting to ownership. Not all people are going to be able to afford to own a home, but we can create a form of ownership with tenant-owned cooperative housing. And my motto has always been Belmar Gardens, 118 unit, 70-year-old Black-owned, tenant-owned cooperative. They all own those together. $12,000 buys you a share, which is a townhouse, and $269 a month is what people pay for maintenance, upkeep, taxes, insurance. If your roof or furnace goes, the cooperative together buys that. It maintains it. And if you decide to leave, you get your $12,000 back. And so we have to begin to look differently about how we operate in our community. Because we're not the richest and most powerful people, I think we need to learn to work cooperatively again, learn to share among ourselves like we used to do. So that's the vision, is to begin to amplify that vision of how we can begin to rebuild our communities again.
Yeah, and you talked about, working in housing justice ever since displacement from Penn, but you've also been very a vocal advocate around criminal justice reform and police accountability. How do you think that work that you've done so far is going to lead you to experience in Harrisburg?
And again, Harrisburg is a very difficult place with the Republicans in the majority. So, you can put forth legislation, which I'll do. I will speak out on any issue that I can, but the actual getting legislation passed that will benefit the most of our people, like a minimum wage of 16, I don't think 15 is enough any longer, just say a minimum wage of $18, that's going to be difficult for any Democrat to get those things passed. And so, but I do think that if you really can't do a lot of things at times, you can speak out. And so that's why we spoke out about the issue. There were a lot of young people who were very animated about change around police reform, which, as you know, a year later, we've seen very little at the national or local level. We've seen a few Band-Aids. But we need to talk about comprehensive about police and about police, the culture of policing, but particularly about the money that we spend in police. So, people may have twisted the word defund the police. Nobody, when we talk about Pittsburgh, we didn't ever use those words, but we did say, let's begin to question how much money we're spending in police. And if they can prove we need more money in policing, then we should spend more money. If that is what we need to make sure everybody feels safe, and I firmly believe the vast majority of people do feel safe in the city of Pittsburgh, that we need to question how much money we're spending in that budget. And it's simple as that. And if we can prove, again, through data, not through opinions, but through data, that we're actually spending more money in policing, and we could spend those dollars more with social workers or other intervention professionals, then we need to have serious, candid conversations about that. But as we say, that word of the day, let the science and the data lead us in the direction. If we're spending too much money, we are spending a lot of money, then that could be more money that can go to housing, youth programs, to support our seniors, and to do many of the things that right now are not occurring in Pittsburgh.
Well, thank you for that answer. You talked about a lot of various issues, from housing, stability to support for the elderly. What are some of the most pressing issues that you see facing the 24th legislative district?
Of course, the continued exodus of African Americans from the 24th legislative district, be that due to rising rents or not being able to in a position to buy a home, but can't afford to buy anything in the city of Pittsburgh, and people who just leave because it's situations. I mean, the city is the biggest slum landlord in Homewood, and most likely the Hill District and other places. And some people, they get tired of living next to abandoned homes while they're struggling to keep their home up, and their home never rises in value or anything. So I think those are some of the issues. But also, I think we have a particular issue around our young people. That nothing's wrong with our young people, but we need to provide more outlets and more opportunity for our young people. There should be no reason that I think any parent knows one of the number one secrets to successful child rearing is make sure you keep your child busy. And it's a shame that we don't have swim clubs, chess clubs, and things like that, not just for the youth, but just for everybody to bring us together. But a particular emphasis I think we should have on young people. And if it's sports, that should be made available. There should always be a league they could join. If it's the arts, there should always be something they can walk out of their home in Homewood, in the Hill, in Garfield, and be able to participate in something that they're interested in. I also think we need to build, more relationships with these tech companies are here. They're not going anywhere. And so let's try to make them an ally by actually approaching them and see what things they could do to not only support our youth, but also to support our workforce.
Thank you for that, because I think a lot of people are familiar with the 24th for being this hotbed of gentrification, unfortunately, and it's really great to see like this vision that you have for everyone like coming together and having these community engagements and leagues to rebuild.
That's how we come together, Miracle. I mean, that's how we come together is, we used to do those things down south. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money, so we did things, whether it was dances or again, baseball games or things like that. I mean, we used to do those on a regular basis. And that's one of the real lessons I learned from Penn Plaza is that you really do need to get to know your neighbor, because it could be any kind of crisis that comes about and you don't really know, because we're all busy, we're all working, going to school, whatever. And we need to take the time to get out and meet each other. So one thing our Penn Plaza group, did here at Mellon Orchard, because Mellon Orchard, we worked with them and they gave priority for Penn Plaza residents to come back to East Liberty. So it's legal. They have 2 lists, one for Penn Plaza and one for everybody else. If you're Penn Plaza for the next 5 years, you'll get a preference. And so one of the first things that we did this year is we did a cookout. I think that was in July for the residents. Just come down and just meet your neighbors and stuff. And then we did I think it was a taco night. We had a very nice chef who did a taco night for us. I think that was October before it got cold. And all it was, people brought some dishes and we just sat out there, played some music, played some cards and talked with each other and meet each other. And I think that's just incredibly important. I think that's not only how you build a strong, resilient community. I think that's also helps to build people too, because now we have other resources and networks that we didn't have while we were just sitting in our home watching football.
Yeah, I think that's really great to have people come together. And so as you're doing, you're campaigning, you're meeting people, are there any issues that have surprised you at all?
Hmm. You say that's a good question. That is a good question. Issues that surprised me. I think there's lot more pessimism than I kind of expected of people that basically we're not going to make it in Pittsburgh. That eventually, if you're not making a significant amount of money, you're not going to be able to afford that. And I was kind of surprised that even all age groups, there's even young people who kind of believe that. And I absolutely did not. I absolutely did not. And one of the things that I would bring to this job as state representative is I'm an organizer. And an organizer leader must be optimistic and say, hey, we're going to get through this. But factually, I can tell you, we can get through this. We can rebuild Homewood to the 30,000 people I talked about in the next 10 years, because the dollars are here, and the city can even borrow more money. But as I try to tell everybody, the reason why this can happen, Miracle, used to be something called tax increment financing. It was a scam that developers used, to get a lot of tax, free money. But the idea is you go to the bank, you borrow money. The governments borrow money from bonds. They don't go to banks, but you go to a bank, you borrow the money, and it's based on the future tax revenues that'll be derived. So if Homewood is rebuilt as I envision it, it is going to be creating tax revenue, large amounts of tax revenue that this city right now does not exist. So any investment that the city puts into Homewood and the Hill and other areas that are depressed, they will recoup those dollars to the amounts, because it'll go on forever as long as Pittsburgh exists. And so that's why I'm saying it can be done. We need some leadership, we need some vision, we need some advocacy, but there's no question that we can rebuild this community and keep it affordable permanently. Keep it affordable.
Yeah, you talked about earlier having to go to Harrisburg and work with conservatives and understanding that that was going to be a hurdle. Well, right now, the biggest hurdle is this debate over the Act 77 legislation with the courts have kind of paused even, getting signatures for the election. How do you see this whole battle over election integrity impacting your campaign, whether it is the drawing of the maps or even just the ability to have a future election that's not delayed?
Well, I'm more concerned about the bigger picture. I mean, they'll get a map, and we'll have an election even if it's delayed. I'm concerned about what will happen if we get a Republican governor and a Republican state legislature. And we've seen many of the things that have happened in Texas. I'm extremely concerned about a woman's right to control her body. I'm very concerned that we could see legislation that restricts the teaching of true history. I'm very concerned about the attacks on trans youth that we're seeing in these legislatures, where the first time in 100 years, they're actually legislating against individuals. We know what that looks like when they're actually legislating against individual human beings. I'm extremely concerned about the right to vote is going to be made more and more harder instead of easier and easier. I'm very concerned about that. I'm even concerned that if it really starts going off the rails, that they're actually going to be removing public dollars from public education and putting those dollars towards private and parochial schools. So this really is a time for strong leadership to stand up against some powerful forces and that can organize these people to speak out and to fight for themselves. And so that can be done. And it will be done if I'm the next state representative, because I intend to fight very hard, like you've seen me fight on these issues of police and housing justice. We've got to really start bringing people together, and people are going to have to come out their doors, and it's going to have to be more than just casting a vote. I think they actually have to organize, raise money, and start defeating some of these fascist Republicans.
And to that end, you have some experience with like school boards. How do you see this battle for like critical race theory impacting not only like the schools, but the youth's ability to engage and organize and learn, as you said, like the real history of things?
America, we have to understand again what is happening. Great swaths of white America are extremely concerned about the demographic changes we have in this country. And we have many wide swaths of white people in this country who want to return back to the golden years of 1953. And so, and Donald Trump said, I can take you back there. So we should be very concerned about the things that are occurring. So last year, that Black Lives Matter slogan hit some people hard. Our LGBTQ plus community rising up, saying we have a right to present ourselves to the world if we so choose. And so do you notice the pushback is against particularly those groups of people, brown people also with the immigration thing. And so this is serious pushback saying go back to where you were in 1953. So that's why these horrific laws are going on about trans youth and attacking that. And critical race theory is simply an attack to push Black people back. We know critical race theory probably was created by Derek Bell of Pittsburgh. And again, we know that that's taught in law schools. That is not taught in the Pittsburgh public schools. We teach history. So to show you how where this really is at, here's a group of parents. I read a news story in Alabama who say celebrating Black history is critical race theory. Now you see where they're trying to take us? And so again, yes, we do have to vote, but also I do think we have to organize. But again, the attack on critical race theory is just a simple way of saying is to push back on Black people because of the Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd protests.
Thank you so much for that. And you talked a little bit about, your campaign and meeting people. How do people find out more information about your campaign?
Well, we do have a website that's up, and they can see information. We're still working on it. Like I said, we're always a grassroots organization, and we depend on volunteers. We depend on our small donation volunteers of a lot of people. So we can probably see there's probably more information on there about me around the city council, but we'll be working on that as we go forward. We're just mainly, again, trying to talk to people, try to spread this message that change is possible and leadership is necessary, and that experienced leadership particularly is an advantage to our people at this time.
Yeah, and as you're campaigning, of course, everyone would like to win, but outside of winning, what do you want to be the result of your campaign?
What's always, again, I ran for city council in 2019, and again, was up against a lot of money. I thought we did very well. But campaigns are an opportunity. Again, my main focus is winning, because when you win, you get in those positions. You can make a difference, whether it's a school board, city council. It can make a big difference. It gives you a bigger platform to be heard. If I call a meeting, it's State Representative Randall Taylor, I might get 200 people together. I do it as just activists, I might get 50 people. And that's just the nature of it. But it's also an opportunity to educate, as I just spoke to your audience about, the vision of how we can bring Homewood back. That's important. So I hope that I'm giving a hopeful message to people that change is possible, that change is possible. And if we fight, we win.
And so you talked about having, the hope for the campaign and fighting back against the pessimism. We know campaigns are very, very hard and difficult.
Very, very.
And so during this time, what is bringing you joy and keeping you motivated to fight?
That I have the ability to fight. Miracle. Nobody. I got my little jobs that I keep. You don't need a lot of money in this world to be happy and stuff. And so I keep my little jobs. I'm happy, and just to be able to do what I'm able to do. And I know that's a blessing to have some of the organized or people skills that I have. And so, and I know that I've made a difference. I know that I've made a difference in this city, and I know that I've made a difference in people's lives. I mean, at a time when you're running for office, you kind of do have to pat yourself on the back, but I'm so proud to have been able to bring 23 people formerly of Penn Plaza and get them a new home in East Liberty. not many people can say that they put a roof over a family's head. And I love that. And I just want to do so much more of it. And as I said, my work about the 20,000, about the 30,000 at Homewood is going to go on whether I win this race. But that could be the difference of it being done in 10 years or being done in 25. And so that's a decision that people have to make. It shouldn't be about how many flyers you got on in your mail. It should be about a track record of somebody that you know. And so I'm going to continue that work, but I'm also going to speak out about forces that I think that are in our community that shouldn't be in our community. I'm going to speak out against forces that are trying to make decisions in our community when we should be making decisions in our community. And because of my, work situation, whatever, they can't come with me and mess with my money. That's what they always do. When a Black person stands up, one of the first things they want to go at is your job. And so I happen to work jobs where it'd be very difficult for them. So I'm free to say what I want to say and say it to whomever I want to say it. I take very much pride in naming names.
Well, you have done that, and we appreciate your time for sitting with the Sunday Night Sit Down. And again, that is Randall Taylor, a candidate for the 24th Legislative District. Thank you so much, Randall. I hope you have.
Thank you, Miracle. I appreciate it.
All right, bye.
All right.
And so, with the Sunday Night Sit Down, we host these things every Sunday so we can sit down and talk with elected officials and candidates so you can get a more informed decision about people who are running for office as you make your vote. Now, unfortunately, there is a lot of stuff happening with the legislature, but still, the election for the special election is still slated for April 5th. But if there is some issues with the maps or the campaigns, it may be delayed. But right now, it is still slated for April 5th. So if you're in the 19th or 24th legislative district, you'll be voting on April 5th. And for the 24th, you're voting to replace Representative, now Mayor Ed Gainey. And if you're in the 19th, you're voting to replace now Chief of Staff, former Representative Jake Wheatley. And again, we want to make sure that people understand, or we invite candidates on to share their perspectives and why they're running. And this is not a personal reflection or opinion of One Hood Power or our staff or affiliates. So we love that candidates come on and in their honesty and their truth and sit down and talk with us. So to that end, we have a lot of great programming coming up on Monday for One Hood Power, talking a little more about the election. What is going on in Harrisburg? What's going on with our elections, and what does that mean for you as a voter? So Monday at 7 p.m., we'll have Kadita Kenner from New Pennsylvania Project. We'll have a couple of journalists coming on to talk about some new bills and recent decisions. And we'll have a representative coming to talk about, as candidates, how do you fill out your documentation, but as voters, how do you sign people's petitions to make sure that your candidate that you support is actually on the ballots? That's Monday at 7 p.m. And Wednesday, we do This Week in White Supremacy. So again, tune in. A lot of stuff happening with the One Hood Media Network. I'm your host, Miracle Jones. I hope you have a great Super Bowl Sunday, and whatever team you're rooting for, I hope that they win. As always, like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have capacity, please always donate. We are a grassroots organization. With that, I'm signing off. Have a great day.